Everybody. How are you all doing today? I hope you guys have had a great day so far, and most importantly, I hope you thoroughly enjoyed these lesson videos, and I hope that you guys are trading at a very different level than where you were before watching a lot of these videos. So we have summarized, or we've gone through a lot of these lessons already. We've recently just finished what is the MACD and histogram indicator, and we also went through advanced strategies with moving averages as well, right? And today we're going to be adding in a new indicator called the RSI. And I personally believe that the RSI is probably one of the most powerful indicators in all of trading, guys. For out of every single indicator, I personally believe it is better than, say Ichimoku clouds or Bollinger Bands. I think it's better than moving averages. It's by far my favorite indicator, as you guys know already. It is the majority of my tweets. You'll see me tweeting about it a lot, right? So yeah, I hope to really see you guys make use of RSI as well. So because remember we were talking about how there are lagging indicators and there are also not lagging indicators. RSI is one of those tools that is not a lagging indicator, meaning that it actually takes real time data. Okay, it takes real time information. It uses a mathematical formula, and the formula is something like I think it's 100 minus 100, and in the last minus 100 it's multiplied by 1 minus rs, where rs is equal to the relative gain in that specific time period divided by the regular down, or the relative down in that time frame as well. So it's using a mathematical formula that doesn't actually lag whatsoever. So it's definitely one of my favorite indicators to use overall, and there's many different ways to look at it as well. So let's go over a lot of these different rules that I've allocated for myself. Okay. So first of all, what is RSI? RSI refers to the relative strength index. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys how to actually set it up from the beginning. Let's open up Microsoft Edge. Let's go to tradingview.com. Okay. And let's get it up here from scratch. So, go to your ticker, go to whatever coin that you're trading or whatever chart, just get it up there. And, when you first see a chart, you'll see it something like this, right? Just like that. Go to indicator tab, type in RSI, of course. And you'll see it right down over here, right? You can actually move it up or you can move it down. It's up to you guys, right? Where you want to have it. I personally keep mine at the top there, right? And double click on any of these lines. What I recommend that you guys do, of course, is thicken the line, okay? Thicken the line so you can actually see it. That's personally all that I do, okay? And then that's it. That's how you get RSI on the screen there. So once again, you go to your indicator tab, type in RSI, click on it one time. Right now we've got 2 in there. Just double click on it over here and thicken it. Just make it whatever you guys prefer. Because here it's kind of dinky, it's kind of small, not really the best in my personal opinion over there. So RSI refers to the relative strength index, and it will hover between 0, okay, and 100, right? It's going to there's going to be a line that's going to simply move up and down, sideways to the right, and it will vary between 0 and 100. Now, generally speaking about the RSI, okay, just very generally speaking about the RSI, if it is below 30, that's right, 30 over here, I'm going to write this out for you guys. Generally speaking, but no guarantees, right? A reversal. So if above 30 or 70, we call this an overbought region, okay? And under 30, if under 30, we call this an oversold region, okay? That's a very general rule to remember. So anytime you find it above 70, you're going to be considering it reaching overbought regions, right? And if it's under 30, we'll consider it it's near much so reaching an oversold region. Now, during these zones, it doesn't guarantee any type of reversal on hand, but what it can mean is that a reversal might happen sometime soon, because nothing ever stays in an overbought region for that long, and nothing ever stays in an oversold region for that long. Okay. Now, more rules that we would like to consider as well, right? According to Constance Brown's RSI rule, okay, Constance Brown RSI rules, these are more so advanced rules, that we consider neutral zone, okay? Neutral zone between about 30 to 60, something like that, 30 to 65, or 35 to 70, like 35. Actually, we'll say 30 to 60-ish. Around these particular ranges, or even 35 to 65, 30 to 60, or maybe 40 to 70, around these ranges, right? That's more so a very neutral zone. Now, a more so bullish zone would be 40 to high 70 pluses, like 80s, 90s, right? And a bearish zone would be basically a very, very we'll say about 60 to low 30, like less than 30. Okay, hopefully you guys know your annotations, like less than, like I'll just say less than 30, like that. Okay, so bearish zone would be, say, 60 to well lower and well below the 30 zone, right? So we're talking about 10, 20 zones as well. And I always follow these rules to subsidize, or not to subsidize, to supplement my rules in general here. So I hope you guys have a very good grasp on these general ideas so far. So let's look at what we try to look for, okay? So generally what we like to look for is signs of bullishness, right? What we're looking for is something like this, just as an example. Let me just get my drawing tool up here. I don't have it quite up yet. We're looking for signs of bullish or bearish divergence to enter a position, right? If we're seeing bullish divergence, which generally refers to this, okay? It refers to, let's just say that this was the RSI range right here, okay? Where the RSI comes down, right? Comes down, hits a peak right there, and then it might go down a little bit more or something like that, and then it goes up, and then it goes down, and then it goes up, and then it goes down, right? So just say we have something like that. So what this would refer to right here is something called bullish divergence, where it is making a series of a lower high, right? So see the lows here? They're actually becoming higher and higher. So that is what we are looking for. Now, I want to be very clear about a lot of things, okay? Let's just say that we just kept getting a bunch of candles. Okay, we're getting a bunch of candles, like on a whatever time frame, right? Let's just say it was like that, where this is clearly a lower low. And then on the RSI, what we're actually getting, okay, let's just say that this actually, went down like that, and there were some candles in between, right? It went down a little bit more, right? But on this particular candle right here, we're actually getting a higher low, okay? Very much so higher low. Just to give you guys a very basic example, right? It's getting lower, but all of a sudden, this one here is giving you a lower low on the candle, but you are actually gaining a higher low on here. So I just want to talk to you guys about what a higher low and higher high refers to, and lower high or higher low, okay? So there are many different things that we say a lot. Okay, we say higher high, we say higher low, we say lower high, and we say higher high. Or sorry, we say lower high and we say lower low, okay? You guys will hear these very much so often. This one here, it refers to the lows, right? Or this one here refers to the highs, and this over here refers to the lows. Make sense? Right there, okay? So if these are the lows, if this one here is a lower low, it means that this low region right here is lower than the previous one. But if, for example, if this one was higher, right? This one was all of a sudden higher, then this would mean that this is getting a higher low. Where in this particular case, this right here would be a higher high, right? This right here would be a lower high than there. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit as well for you guys. All right, now that we've actually defined what RSI is, and we've talked about some regions. So once again, if it is above 70, it would be considered reaching overbought regions. If it is below 30, it would be considered reaching oversold regions. But there's actually no guarantee of it reversing when it gets to those particular price points. So what we do with RSI is we try to look for bearish or bullish signs of divergence, right? We try to look for these bearish signs of divergence or bullish to see where we could possibly enter a short position or where we could actually enter a long position. So let's get into tons and tons and tons of examples, guys. We're going to talk about examples throughout the entire time. So just to give you guys a really good idea, okay, of what basically a very bullish zone looks like, okay? And what we can actually do with RSI as well is we could consider support RSI numbers. That's right, guys. We could consider RSI support. Okay, so to give you guys a really good example right here, see this right here? That would be considered an RSI support back in September. That's right, RSI support, okay? Right here as well, an RSI support, right? So now that we've got 2 points of RSI supports, okay, to give you guys a really good idea, right? So then what we'd want to do is after we see it bounce right off of here, guys, right? So we have to think of trading as something where we have a lot of different strategies, right? And we have a lot of different methods of analysis, and some might be a lot better than others at specific times, whereas others may not be as good, right? So what we try to do is try to look for confluent reasons to enter a trade to increase the probability of us being successful. I'm going to actually lower this camera just a little bit for you guys. You don't want to enter a trade where it's not guaranteed, but there's a very low chance of you actually winning. You want to look for these confluent reasons to enter a trade because, well, it'll just simply increase the chances of you being successful and probable in the trade. High probability setups over time, they'll definitely yield a lot more profit as well, okay? So just as an example, okay, what you are actually finding here is RSI support, right? So the moment that this RSI support is broken, a lot of people will actually enter a short position. And if you guys actually notice this particular zone here where the RSI support is, right there, okay, this whole zone as well, once it broke, it's actually going to coincide with one of the EMAs as well, okay? If you guys have noticed right here, that people entered a big short position right around here, right? Lots of shorts were entered from about 11K to the 6K ranges because it was breaking RSI support. Now, had it bounced off of there, that would have been quite fantastic, but unfortunately it didn't. So if you guys look very closely, the moment that it actually broke this RSI support, I'm going to actually put it up here with the line for you guys to see, was right here, right? Right around this region there, right? You guys notice it? Oh, this is RSI support. That's RSI support. This is RSI support. But the moment that it broke below it, it was also the moment where it heavily broke below the 55 EMA, right? So what you would want to do there is you would basically want to enter a short position, right? I know a lot of you guys are not able to short, but I'm a full-time trader, right? I do this professionally. I will not only talk about long positions, I will talk about both long and short positions because you'll be missing out on half of the profits if you only focus on longs. So then you would want to enter a short position right here, okay? And it's definitely up to you guys to make sure you're reviewing which exchanges support shorting, right? I personally specialize on Bitfinex only, so I'm not really familiar with who does what in terms of allowing you to short. The only exchanges that I know that allow to short is pretty much, I think Poloniex and Bitfinex that I know of. I'm sure that probably half of the exchanges allow margin trading, right? So then you would enter a position right around here, right? And you would actually target roughly the 200 EMA range, right? That makes a lot of sense in my personal opinion to target the EMA right around there. Okay. So do you guys see what I'm talking about? You set your stop loss slightly above the 50 moving average as soon as it breaks the RSI support on a high time frame, right? As soon as that happens, bam, you enter yourself into a short position. You can target roughly the 200 EMA. That makes a lot of sense. Right? I like to target the 200 EMA for a long swing position. And if you guys had entered this trade setup right here, okay, you would have closed your short position as soon as it hits the 200 EMA, right? And you would have actually made yourself a beautiful 34.4% profit right there. Now, let's talk about when we could actually be entering it. Excuse me, there are hiccups. I'm eating, you guys know what I decided to do for breakfast? Yeah, I put this on my desk today because I'm still mourning the loss of the Winnipeg Jets. I decided to make a rack of barbecue ribs. Actually, two racks of barbecued ribs. That's on my desk. So as soon as I finish this particular video today, I'm gonna go outside at 8 in the morning and I'm gonna devour two barbecue racks of ribs, two full wraps, over like maybe 3, 4 beers, and I'm just gonna relax because I'm still mourning the loss of the Jets. It's kind of sad that they got knocked out of the playoffs right there. All right, now that we've actually defined what RSI is, and we've talked about some regions, so once again, if it is above 70, it would be considered reaching over bought regions. If it is below 30, it would be considered reaching over sold regions, but there's actually no guarantee of it reversing when it gets to those particular price points. So what we do with RSI is we try to look for bearish or bullish signs of divergence, right? We try to look for these bearish signs of divergence or bullish to see where we could possibly enter a short position or where we could actually enter a long position. So let's get into tons and tons and tons of examples, guys. We're going to talk about examples throughout the entire time. So just to give you guys a really good idea, okay, of what basically a very bullish zone looks like, okay? And what we can actually do with RSI as well is we could consider support RSI numbers. That's right, guys. We could consider RSI support, okay? So to give you guys a really good example right here, see this right here? That would be considered an RSI support back in September. That's right, RSI support, okay? Right here as well, an RSI support, right? So now that we've got 2 points of RSI supports, okay, to give you guys a really good idea, right? So then what we'd want to do is after we see it bounce right off of here, guys, right? So we have to think of trading as something where we have a lot of different strategies, right? And we have a lot of different methods of analysis, and some might be a lot better than others at specific times, whereas others may not be as good, right? So what we try to do is try to look for confluent reasons to enter a trade to increase the probability of us being successful. I'm going to actually lower this camera just a little bit for you guys. You don't want to enter a trade where it's not guaranteed, but there's a very low chance of you actually winning. You want to look for these confluent reasons to enter a trade because, well, it'll just simply increase the chances of you being successful and probable in the trade. High probability setups over time, they'll definitely yield a lot more profit as well, okay? So just as an example, okay, what you are actually finding here is RSI support, right? So the moment that this RSI support is broken, a lot of people will actually enter a short position. And if you guys actually notice this particular zone here where the RSI support is, right there, okay, this whole zone as well, once it broke, it's actually going to coincide with one of the EMAs as well, okay? If you guys have noticed right here, that people entered a big short position right around here, right? Lots of shorts were entered from about 11K to the 6K ranges because it was breaking RSI support. Now, had it bounced off of there, that would have been quite fantastic, but unfortunately it didn't. So if you guys look very closely, the moment that it actually broke this RSI support, I'm going to actually put it up here with the line for you guys to see, was right here, right? Right around this region there, right? You guys notice it? Oh, this is RSI support. That's RSI support. This is RSI support. But the moment that it broke below it, it was also the moment where it heavily broke below the 55 EMA, right? So what you would want to do there is you would basically want to enter a short position, right? I know a lot of you guys are not able to short, but I'm a full-time trader, right? I do this professionally. I will not only talk about long positions, I will talk about both long and short positions because you'll be missing out on half of the profits if you only focus on longs. So then you would want to enter a short position right here, okay? And it's definitely up to you guys to make sure you're reviewing which exchanges support shorting, right? I personally specialize on Bitfinex only, so I'm not really familiar with who does what in terms of allowing to short. The only exchanges that I know that allow to short is pretty much, I think, Poloniex and Bitfinex that I know of. I'm sure that probably half of the exchanges allow margin trading, right? So then you would enter position right around here. right? And you would actually target the roughly the 200 EMA range, right? That makes a lot of sense in my personal opinion to target the EMA right around there. Okay, so do you guys see what I'm talking about? You set your stop loss slightly above the 100, or sorry, the 50 moving average as soon as it breaks the RSI support on a high time frame, right? As soon as that happens, bam, you enter yourself into a short position. You can target roughly the 200 EMA. That makes a lot of sense, right? I like to target the 200 EMA for a long swing position. And if you guys had entered this trade setup right here, okay, you would have closed your short position as soon as it hits the 200 EMA, right? And you would have actually made yourself a beautiful 34.4% profit right there. So that example was an example of how to use RSI as a support that breaks. Okay, guys, that's a very important concept to understand, that RSI can be treated as a support as well. Now, I'm going to give you guys a clear-cut example of, for example, when we're starting to lose steam because we're finding bearish signs of divergence, okay? I'm going to talk about this very clearly, and I don't see a lot of people on the internet talking about this, guys, because maybe they can't explain it well. Maybe they're not a seasoned trader, or maybe they just don't understand the concept. I don't know, but I think that these concepts are really, really important to understand. Do you guys see this right here, okay? You guys have heard of double tops before and triple tops before that I've been mentioning, right? RSI can actually do the same thing. It can reach a double top. It can reach a triple top. And if it can't simply break into a higher relative strength, like you have to think of relative strength as the actual momentum that's carrying in the market, right? It gauges how much strength there is in the market because it takes a lot of calculations into account, right? So we need to make sure that relative strength index is actually reaching some sort of high relative to the previous high, because we want to see if it's gaining strength or losing strength. So I'm going to give you guys a really good example right here, okay? Here, for example, we're reaching the same peak. 1 peak, 2 peak, 3 peak, right? And remember earlier, I was talking about how you can actually get higher highs, right? So that's where that one high was. This is where the second high was. This is the third high, right? Would you guys agree with me that this right here is a higher high and a higher high? And even this one right here is a higher high, right? And even this one right there is a higher high for candlestick wise, right? This one, I got to make it a little bit smaller because they're very close. But you guys see what I'm talking about right here? Higher, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, right? Same RSI, same RSI, same RSI. But if you guys actually look right here, okay, the next one, guys, honestly, the next one that I see with a higher high for candle, but a lower high for RSI, okay, the moment that it got this peak right there, okay, and it dropped down to right there, okay, I would have said to myself, I'm going to wait for the next bearish daily candle. And when the next bearish daily candle shows up, I will gladly enter a short position. So now I'm also looking at my, for example, right here, this candle right there, I noticed, okay, it's a doji candle at the very top. Boom. This is where I could have closed and taken my profit right there, right? So you don't have to enter a short position, but it's more so just talking about how you can actually spot the top. And guys, spotting the top is an art, and you will substantially get good at it. And once you get very good at it, you're going to know how to maximize the profit, right? If you're playing as a day trader, especially. So would you guys agree with me here that this is actually a lower high? So we're losing strength in the market. So you could have taken your profit right there when this doji candle formed, right? Or you could have entered a short position as well after closing your long position as well. So that's a clear-cut example of where you are actually getting a higher high on the candles, but you are getting a series of lower highs on the actual RSI. And what this will indicate always, guys, this is honestly my bread and butter. This is my bread and butter, where I'm looking constantly for a series of a higher high okay, on the candle, but I'm looking for basically lower highs on the RSI itself. And if you guys constantly look for this particular setup, there's no doubt in my mind, guys, that you will be a successful trader over time if you put in the hard work and effort always as well. So let's look at even more examples now. I mentioned earlier that we're going to look for when to time an entry, okay? When to time an actual entry using RSI on the daily, for example, okay? So for example, right here, we're going to look at some RSI resistances and supports, okay? Near here, you guys definitely would have wanted to enter, okay? We're going to draw a bunch of these lines that were acting as kind of a resist or support rather, okay? There's one there, there's one there, right? There's one here as well, okay? Just like that. So this one here, let's look at it together and do a detailed analysis on here, okay? If you guys look on here, that was obviously one, okay? That was obviously one right there. It broke through it, okay? We want a time when we could possibly enter a trade, right? So just keep looking, guys, right? Right here was obviously a very relative support. This right here, this one right here, every time it reaches near it, this is the lowest that we have ever seen it, okay, guys? The lowest that we have ever seen the daily RSI in the past year is this point right here. So always make note of where the previous lowest low was as your RSI support, because when it gets near there, what you're going to want to do is get very interested in the market, right? I'm going to clear it all up just to make it have it make a little bit more sense. So pretty much anywhere on the daily that we can see for Bitcoin right now, between about 25 and 30 on the RSI, it's definitely a really good place to enter because the daily, guys, does not stay oversold for that long. I mean, even if you entered a position for Bitcoin on the daily, like around here, say 8,700, if you were if you were laddering your buys accordingly, when it got a little bit lower, you would have realized very clearly that because the RSI support in the past year never really broke down below 24, right? You guys look at it, right? 24. This one over here only got to about 27. You could have realized that, okay, well, near the 24 range, there's a very strong chance of us actually bullishly diverging. So I also want to give you guys more examples of how we could have timed an entry. So notice right here, this is sideways action, right? No doubt this is like sideways action right here, okay? Right? Candles are pretty much doing the exact same thing, right? They're all kind of relatively similar price action, but what you want to look for is bullish signs of divergence, okay? It can be a lower low if you want to look for an uptrend, right? If you are getting a series of a lower low on the actual price action, but you're getting a series of a higher low on the RSI, for example, this is a higher low, this is also a higher low as well. Not only is it not just getting a series of a higher low on a very steady and inclined rate, but it's actually parabolically starting to move up, right? If you look at it, in hindsight, it's starting to parabolically move up like that, right? So because we're seeing this point right here bullishly diverge, right there, bullishly diverge, bullishly diverge, bullishly diverging, right? And here as well, this is the one, guys. This is the one right here where you should have entered a trade. This guy right there. Okay, right there. Right here. That candle right there. That is the one that gave it away where you should have entered a trade. Okay, you should have entered the trade because we were getting a series of a lower, or it's not a lower low, but similar price action. It's not going higher, it's not going lower, right? But we're getting it kind of sideways. But the RSI is actually giving you a series of bullish diverging, right? It is certainly starting to bullishly diverge to the upside because RSI is giving you a real-time indication of the momentum change and how much strength there is in the market. If anything is going sideways, but you're actually gaining strength in the market by looking for these signs of bullish divergence, which is giving you a higher low, right? Definitely want to enter a trade. So if you entered a trade right there, what you would have actually done was, you entered a trade, whatever, around right there. You set your stop loss always slightly below Okay, always slightly below, depending on your situation, below the interim swing low, which refers to the previous swing low position. Always generally target around the 55 or 200 EMA, okay? And if you guys target around the 200 or the 55 EMA for this particular trade, you would have made yourself a 27% gain just by looking for this tiny little sign, okay? Now let's talk about February 6th. February 6th was obviously one of the pinnacle days where it made a very abrupt type of correction, right? There are basically two types of things that can happen, guys, right? One is a steep drop down, and then we go sideways for a bit, and we figure it out, and then we finally go up. The second one is a steep drop down, right? Or even a steady drop down, okay? Even a steady drop down. But if there's a steep drop down, we call this a V, like the letter V, correction, right? Where it drops and it simply just picks back up like that. These V corrections are very powerful, right? For example, right here, this would be where it drops down, right? It goes down, goes down, goes down, sideways for a bit, and then finally it goes upwards. Whereas this one right here, if you guys notice, it dropped down and it made a V type of correction. It did not waste any time at all, okay? So now, you guys might have missed this right here, and you wanted actually more confirmation, right? So what you're going to do, guys, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to look for where the RSI resistance is, right? And in my opinion, the recent RSI resistances are kind of around these regions right here, right? That's a major RSI resistance zone. In fact, I'd probably say it's around right here, okay? Like right there, literally. So we're going to choose a very good resistance that we see that the RSI simply could not break for the past few days, actually. So if you guys notice right here on the RSI, okay, it simply cannot break above here, right? That's the resistance, one peak, double top for the RSI. So now what we say to ourselves is, if it breaks that RSI, I will enter a long position because this is what's going to give you confirmation. Remember, I always suggest confirmation, guys. If you don't wait for confirmation to enter a trade, unfortunately, you're gonna end up losing a lot more money, right? So personally, myself, I didn't catch Bitcoin at 6K exactly because I was trading Ripple. If you guys remember my funny Ripple videos there, I was trading Ripple, I was trading EOS, right? I was trading everything but Bitcoin around that time. But I was watching Bitcoin very carefully because I wanted to see when it would actually start leveling off. So right here, guys, what we see is this is where it broke the RSI resistance, right? So what do we always do, guys? What we like to do, generally speaking, is we like to enter a long position when it breaks any RSI resistance, right? It broke the RSI resistance, which guess what? Which now becomes a support. Okay, see right here, it broke above it and it actually became a simple support and it bounced off of it as well. Okay, so you would want to consider closing your position if it actually broke below what was formerly a resistance that's now a support. Okay, if it actually broke below here, close that position the moment that it snaps down below it, guys, right? So, but generally what you want to do is you want to target around the 55 EMA, first of all, okay? That's usually how it's done. And always set your target, or sorry, your stop loss slightly below, like around, say, 2-3%, whatever you guys prefer, okay? I'm just going to go down to right over here, say 2-3%. I've been risking about 3% lately because I've just been much more risky. And I would target around the 55 EMA. But what I would do to adopt a ride type of strategy is what I'm just about to talk about right now. You want to ride this RSI, guys, right? You want to ride it as high as you can. You give it a chance to drop down one time, okay? If it dropped down one time and it fell down below it, you would have closed your position right around there instead, right? You would have closed it right around there. You would have only taken about a 5 to 6% profit. But if it actually bounced off of there, then you would have taken it at the next peak, right? What you would have done is you would have said, okay, well, I don't need to close my position because it never broke below it. So what then you want to do is you want to look for the next bearish signs of divergence, right? And we say to ourselves, okay, well, can it actually breach this RSI right here, right? can it breach this RSI right here, the previous one? Can it get a higher high than it, right? And we give it a little bit of time to see how it's going to react at these particular levels. And what you guys see is, yeah, it broke above it, all right. Okay, it broke above it, but it actually ended up coming down right away. Right away. It lost strength in the market instantly as soon as it hit that peak. Okay, so now you look on the histogram and you say to yourself, all right, well, this right here, guys, is now down ticking, right? We cannot get a series of a higher high on the histogram, and it actually down ticked right there. You got to look at it very close, guys. It's down ticking on the histogram, and we've went over that many, many times already, right? So because it's down ticking, we also now look at the price action, and we say to ourselves, oh, wow, that's a really nasty shooting star type of candle, okay? Shooting star type of candle. So then we align the stars and we say to ourselves, okay, well, histogram just down ticked. Okay, RSI broke above the resistance right here, but simply could not sustain it. And because it could not sustain it, guys, what does that mean? We got the histogram, we've got the shooting star candle, we've got the RSI that breaks through the resistance but ends up bull trapping you. Bam. And that ends up meaning that it's time for you guys to take your profit right there. So you would have entered right there when you were seeing the signs of the bullish divergence, right? You could have entered if you wanted to after you saw the bullish signs of divergence, for example, the daily right there. You guys can scroll through each time frame back and forth, right, to see which is a good time to enter. But personally, me, I would have adopted this strategy right there, where I would buy it on the breakout of the RSI, okay, break on the RSI, and then it just simply goes up, tries to come down, test that RSI, right? But then it doesn't break it, and then it goes up again. So instead of selling your position or closing your position around 9300, you would have taken your profit almost at the top, basically. So have you guys noticed that we're implementing a lot more strategies that's giving you guys a really good example of how to catch the top and how to catch the bottom? And when we implement RSI with histogram, with MACD, with price action, with moving averages, gives us a really good idea, especially when we're also adding RSI resistance and RSI supports as well. I'm a big support and resistance player, right? And I'll buy on the breakout. But to buy on the breakout, it can also mean on the actual RSI support as well. So make sure that you guys are definitely understanding these types of terminologies that I'm referring to as well. So that's an awesome opportunity. So let's look for even more opportunities of being able to catch the top, for example, okay? So let's give you guys a really clear example. Here, right, we were talking about entering a trade and targeting about the 200 EMA, which is a really good sign. But I'll give you guys another really good example of how we are getting a series of a higher high, right, guys? We're seeing a higher high. There's no doubt in my mind that you guys would agree with me right here that this right there is a higher high, okay? And because it's actually a higher high, but guys, look at the RSI, okay? Look at the RSI just trend right there. What do you guys notice? The histogram is very, very dinky, first of all, okay? So you bought yourself into a position because you're seeing it go sideways, but it's gaining more strength, right? Like that, okay? It's gaining more strength. You would have entered roughly around here, right? And your target would be roughly the 200 EMA first, just as a very quick example. Stop loss always slightly below where the previous lower position was. We call that the swing low. So this one was kind of a big risk, right? This one was like you'd be risking a lot. I guess a lot more than normal. Like this one, you could be risking up to like 3-4%, but it's a high probability play, and sometimes you will be risking a little bit more than normal, right? So here we're starting to see the histogram tick down right there. From there to there, it started to tick down, right? Even though we're getting a higher high for price action, okay, we're getting a higher high for a price action right here. We're getting a lower high for the actual RSI itself. So what does that mean, guys? If we're getting a series of lower high, if we're getting a series of a lower high on the RSI, but a higher high for price action, it simply means that it's losing strength in the market, right? And we also confirm it as well. We got to look for confirmation, guys. Confirmation is going to be one of the most important things that will make you succeed or fail as a trader, okay? Now that you guys have actually seen, for example, the lower high there, but the higher high in the price action, we say to ourselves, all right, well, right here, okay, right here is pretty much, you can sell it right there if you like, just to wait until the MACD actually crosses over, but you might be already, down like $1,000, right? So to take the profit at the highest end there, I would have taken it in the middle of this particular candle right there, okay? I would have taken it in the middle of this particular candle right there, simply because this is what we call a double tweezer top formation, right? So take a look at it right there. A double tweezer top formation, we've gone over it already. Just think of tiny little tweezers with wicks like that. So as soon as this weekend started happening, probably in the middle of the day, I would have taken my profit around the 9,600 range, because that is also going to signify that we're at the top. So for this particular situation, you would not have closed it this early yet. You would have looked for massive signs of bearish divergence by getting a series of a higher high, but a higher low on the actual price action. And this one, you probably would have rode it for a good 46% gain. Yeah, so I'm using a lot of these strategies to find breakouts, to find really good high probability setups. And this is kind of what I do all day, guys. I look for higher highs on the candles, on the price action, but I look for lower highs on the actual RSI. So let's go through even more examples to give you guys super good examples of how we're using MACD, moving averages, RSI, price action, and even more information and indicators to gauge when we should enter a setup and when we should take profit as well. All right, let's look at EOS right now. So EOS has been a very popular coin, as you guys know. Their EOS IO is about to be launched very soon, and also their EOS mainnet as well, that will be launched sometime in June. So EOS, awesome coin. I was trading it since literally 75 cents, and I made some really good trades on EOS, guys. Like, I caught the wave. I caught EOS, I caught IOTA, I caught Ripple, I caught Litecoin. Well, not Litecoin actually. I caught Ethereum. Yeah, there's Elgato Music Go. Yeah, Music Go. That was a good one right there. Okay. So if you guys notice on the daily, we're getting a lower low, right? We're getting a lower low right here. And here you started to see a lot of momentum, right? You might have missed it from 47 cents. You might have missed it to 78 cents. But as soon as you saw it bullishly diverging like this, guys, right there, where it's starting to pump up like that, I would highly recommend that you guys enter a trade, right? Highly recommend you enter a trade. You enter a long position around right there. You can buy it on the breakout when it passes above the 55 EMA. But because you're seeing it bullishly diverge, look, guys, this is a lower low right there, but this is a higher low on the RSI, which indicates that it's actually gaining strength, right? The higher low always indicates that it's gaining strength. You want to zoom in to perhaps a lower time frame if you'd like. But even on the daily, as soon as you see perhaps this candle just crossing over below it, you could have entered perhaps right there, okay? Right there, Bo, or even before it. So let's say you entered a position even right there when you're seeing it bullishly diverge pretty hard, actually, right? You could have entered it, say, right here. Set your stop loss, guys, always slightly below. Always, I just gotta change this right there. Always, what's weird? Do you guys see what's happening here? That's so weird. Try it again. Let's say our stop loss was 70 something cents. Okay, no, sorry, I meant point. Say 5. Actually, right here, right around there, set your stop loss, okay? And the strategy that you want to adopt, right, is riding it until it crosses over on the 55 EMA. So you would have rode it to about right over here. You would have made yourself a 1,254% gain, okay? Right there is where you could have easily taken your profit. Where you could have also taken your profit is where you see a series of a higher high, okay, higher high, right? Higher, like this one's a higher high than that one as well, okay? And then you look for these points up here. That's where the one was, right there, okay? You could have taken your profit pretty much almost right there, but the 55 EMA didn't even come close to it yet. So there's no reason to really break above it, right? Or sell it, I mean. So you look for your RSI support ranges. Your RSI support range was clearly right there, okay? As it comes down, okay, let it come down, guys. Let it come down a little bit, and you see to yourself that it bounced off of there, okay? It bounced off of there, and as soon as these series start to form right here, what you would want to do is perhaps go to a lower time frame, guys, okay? Go to a lower time frame, okay? go to a lower time frame and confirm that you're seeing a series of lower highs on the RSI. Major lower, higher high, right? So you've confirmed that on the daily chart, it's looking very bearish and it's diverging bearishly. So then you'd want to go to a lower time frame to time that accuracy and get the best closing price. So you're clearly seeing it bearishly diverge here as well. And you're also seeing a possible MACD crossover, right? Looks like it's about to cross. So right here is most likely where you'd want to close your position, where it's just about to cross over and you're anticipating it. So you would have actually rode this guy to get a whopping about a 1,000, actually a 2,000% profit. That's what you guys would have got, right? You would have entered around 83 cents there, and you would have closed it right around there for a 2,268% gain there. So it's a really, really big gain. So let's look at even more examples, all right? Let's look at this one right here as well. So that was a nice profit, guys. So right here, if you guys notice around this cluster region, around the 200 RSI, right? The 200 RSIs, or sorry, the my mistake, the 200 moving average, right? We're getting a series of sideways price action on the daily, right? But if you guys notice on the daily here, we're finding support right around this range right there, okay? But all of a sudden, right, we're getting a different type of support around this range instead. So if you look at the RSI, we originally had one kind of range for support, and then we're finding another range for support right here. Bam! To me, automatically on the second bounce right there, okay, I would have entered it, okay? I would have entered it on strength, and we have to make sure that we understand these bullish diverging signs. That is a bullishly diverging sign right there because it's a sideways price action down over here as we saw. But what we're noticing right now, guys, is that on the RSI, despite the sideways price action, we're seeing a higher low on the RSI. So if you're seeing a higher low on the RSI, bam, you guys want to enter that trade every single time. Enter that trade, guys, okay? And then it would have been very difficult to catch that specific breakout. But guys, what I would have done is I would have taken the most previous high position, right? That's relative to this sideways trend, which is around right there, okay? Right there. So then what you want to do is, bam, you buy the breakout above these wicks, okay? The volume was clearly amazing as well, okay? That was beautiful. Set your stop loss for slightly lower, in my opinion. That's a really big stop loss, right? Like 20 something percent gain, 20%. I would have just chosen like a really small one, like 3-4%, slightly below that particular resistance. Actually, this one, excuse what I said earlier, slightly below the resistance, because what was formerly a resistance, okay, it now actually becomes a support. So we have to remember that. And what was previously a support now becomes a resistance as well. And then what you would want to do is you'd want to target, right? This was really hard to catch the top, okay? Really hard to catch the top there if you're not familiar with Elliott Wave, etc. So right now, what you would want to do is there's so many different ways to close the top, guys, right? But the way I would have done it is I would have went to, say, a 3-hour chart right there, and I would have just waited until I start to see a series of lower highs. So you could have taken your profit extremely early, right? But if you go to a lower time frame and you employ that 55 moving average strategy, right, you would have easily noticed that right there was the point where everything crossed over. So if you were to ride it and adopt a lot of these strategies that I'm using, there's no doubt in my mind you guys would have made a 180% profit there. You guys know how I know? Because that's what I did. Honestly, I took a really big profit this month riding it, right? So I'm extremely happy about being able to play some positions this thoroughly. And this risk to reward ratio was ridiculous in hindsight when we think about it like that. So once again, you could have bought it on the RSI when it started to bullishly diverge. And you could have also seen that it was about to break out here as well, right? So let's look at even more examples and just keep going through these examples until you guys understand it very, very thoroughly. Because the goal of these lessons is to make it very exclusive for you. We're going to review a lot of these plays. My old lessons, as you guys have noticed, are not that relevant anymore because you want to see very relevant information, right? You want to see relevant charts. You want to see something that just happened so you can take a look at it in hindsight to see how well it could actually reflect it now. So we see EOS just definitely trending upwards here right now. My position for EOS is still looking pretty good right now. Okay, I'm up about $100 already. Cannot complain about that. I'm gonna take about a $700 profit today on EOS. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys why I entered this position right now as well on EOS. I cannot help but see this is bullishly diverging right across the board. Would you guys say that this is bullishly diverging right here? Yeah, it's certainly bullishly diverging right now. There's a lot of reasons to enter this trade. So I entered a trade there, right? We also see a lot of these different types of candles forming with this massive, massive doji candle followed by an inverted hammer right there. And we also are going to see a crossover very, very soon where it goes to the positive side. So when we see this go to the positive side on the histogram and we combine it with the RSI as well, guys, there's no doubt in my mind that this coin is going to get to roughly $13 and 13.63 by the end of the day, okay? That's where my target is, right around here. 13, maybe not quite there. Let's hold on, let me just go to a different time frame here to make it a little bit better. That one here is a good one, but I'm going to choose a more so relevant one, something like that, okay? Something like that. Perhaps that's a pretty decent one. Maybe this one right here, right? Depends on how you guys want to see it. Perhaps just something like that. Okay, so I'm going to be targeting roughly 1363 around right here. So then I'll be up about $900, I'm guessing, maybe 700 by the end of the day. Pretty good trades. Let's look at more examples. Okay, let's talk about IOTA, guys. I've been heavily trading IOTA as well for a very long time, right? We're not going to get into the fundamentals of it, but I definitely, I will always be nostalgic about this coin. If you guys remember my technical analysis from way back in October, guys, we're talking about like I've been doing TA on IOTA for a very long time. And the people that have been following me on IOTA, I know a lot of millionaires, okay, guys, that have followed my trades now, and this one here was no doubt in my mind the millionaire maker in the making right there. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys it right there. This is what turned a lot of people from my technical analysis into millionaires, guys. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys the math as well. Right there, this was happening. We're gonna go to perhaps this time frame. Actually, it wasn't that one. It was this right here. Okay, it was this ABCDE pattern that was actually forming right around there. Okay, we're considering some of those regions bull trapped regions, right? I'm gonna get my little sell sheet up for you guys as well here. Okay, I urged everybody to enter right here, guys. That's right. I urged everybody to enter at 33 cents. It's very difficult to see it right now. I'm actually going to spread it up here. What we were seeing when it got very much so near to here is that we were seeing lower lows, right? We were seeing lower lows, but we were seeing these right there. Okay, we're finding, okay, you got to double click on it to really, really see it. Okay, first of all, you're seeing an RSI support range right over here, right there. Okay, watch. Yeah, I'm always going to be nostalgic about this. You see this RSI support range right there and right there. Then all of a sudden, it actually gains strength and it bounced, okay? So that's something that you want to make notice of, right? We're finding a different RSI support range now. Now let's actually draw where it was. And now we're going to see how we could have played it on the breakout, okay? So the vertical line that we'll draw is right around there. Right around there. That is the moment you guys should have entered a position right there, okay? And I'm going to do the math to show you how a lot of people made a ridiculous amount of money off of this trade, okay? And then what you would have done, okay, what you would have done right there is looked for a clear sign of bearish diverging, right? You would not have taken profit until we were very much so close to the top, right? You could have taken your profit right there around the $3 range, right? But a lot of my friends were very smart about it, and they were waiting for kind of a double tweezer top type of formation. And for the, like here, guys, there would have been no reason to exit a trade. There was actually no crossover on a MACD. We never even got to the negative side. So the next relevant point that you would have closed your trade was where perhaps you start to see some very relevant signs of MACD crossovers, right? So the MACD crossover basically refers to when it goes from the positive side to the negative side of the histogram, right? And right here, we see the negative side crossover right there, but it's actually a lagging indicator. So what we want to look for, and this is the signal that I gave to everybody back in December as well, right? Oh, sorry about that. I just got to redo this right here quickly. Sometimes it does that. I don't know why. Okay, so then what you would have done is on the daily, you see bearishly diverge down here. We're starting to see the stair stepping downwards on the actual histogram and on the RSI. It actually coincides right here as well, okay? It coincides right there as well. And if we go to a lower time frame in December there, let's go to all the way back here, okay? If we go to a lower time frame on there, where it was starting to bearishly diverge was right around this region, right? So as soon as you were seeing these regions, right, of just massive bearish divergence, that would have been a really good place to sell, in my opinion. Catching this one would have been very hard, in my opinion, but there are so many different signs of bearish diverging that I definitely would have sold it around here, okay? I would have waited as well till this formation played out, okay? And if it broke upwards, great. I would have stayed in my position, but the RSI was also indicating that it was losing steam already, right? And then if it broke down, I would have taken my profit. So this is how much money people actually made, okay? They would have taken a profit of around 1,200%, okay? 1,200%. So if we do the math, let me just get into this here for you guys, okay? Let me just get ready quickly. So a lot of my friends played pretty big positions, you know? They were playing like $100,000 positions, right? I'm gonna just get out what one of my really good friends actually ended up playing. Okay, he played 300,000 right there. Okay, and he sold his right around pretty much my exact advice there at 410. So he sold his at around 410. Okay, 410. Right, he bought 33 at 33 cents roughly. He bought 300,000 IOTA. It was about a $100,000 position. In fact, he only had $33,000 or 30K of his own money. Literally, he only had 30K of his own money. He margin traded it on Bitfinex, right? He went all in. He went all in. He was very confident, right? He took my advice, right? To just kind of wait for signs of bearish divergence until I tweeted it or talked to him directly. And he literally turned his $99,000 position and he made a profit of $1.13 million on that trade. So what we try to do, guys, is we try to look for these one popular coin, right? Now, I'm not talking about ICOs. I'm talking about these kind of coins that have a really long-term potential, right? And unfortunately, this coin was certainly one of them, right? It's an awesome coin to be looking at. It's an awesome coin to be day trading as well, in my opinion. Awesome coin for long-term hold as well. I'm a pretty big fan of IOTA in general. And that's not the only coin, guys, where people have made a killer off of it. I'm going to show you guys now Ripple, okay? Ripple was definitely a very hot contender as well. And the RSI signs were really awesome. It gave us lots of clues for where we should have entered a trade. Okay, I'm going to show you guys it right here. Okay, right around there. Do you guys see right here? Okay, do you guys see right here that it's just gaining strength overall, right? It's bouncing off of these support ranges, okay, at third bounce, okay? Look, I'll actually get in very, very close for you guys here. Okay, this was a sign for me. It wasn't just RSI, right? But it was constantly bouncing, getting kind of close, didn't really touch it, but bounced regardless. And also Ripple, okay, right around the December range was when I was telling everybody, you guys need to buy this. You guys need to buy Ripple right here, okay? I'm going to actually just put this on a lock scale. I was telling everybody that, okay, this is getting very, very close to time. This was making like kind of weird shapes with a lot of bull trapped regions, right? So we were trying to accurately draw it as best as possible, right? Which was kind of sloppy and ugly in my opinion, okay? In my opinion, it was really ugly and sloppy at first over here, but it did the job, did fairly well. So you couldn't really acknowledge playing it on the breakout there. So what I was looking for Ripple, where I caught a pretty big wave, guys, right? Was as soon as the volume picked up, okay? As soon as this volume picked up right there, this volume bar right there picked up higher than any volume that we have ever seen before on Ripple. Volume is a really important aspect of trading. This volume right here picked up and boom, we automatically knew that it would definitely hold above this resistance range right here, okay? And also you have to factor in the partnership announcements, especially with Apple. Apple was a really big type of announcement, right? So as soon as it bullishly diverged like this, guys, with that volume bar right there, okay, we're trying to implement a lot of other strategies right there and right there, okay? The volume exploded, right? That's where you should have entered a trade regardless of the RSI, right? Because you have to acknowledge the volume, bullish divergence, and also this right here, guys, is where the 55 moving average strategy started fanning out. In fact, you could have entered it even earlier. Excuse me there. You could have entered it right here on the 55 moving average strategy, or even right here in October. But that's a little bit far back, right? Here, you want to give a little bit of time to see if it fans out, right? See if it fans out. And yeah, it definitely stayed fanned out. It went below the line a little bit, but boom, it popped right back up, right? So the place that you should have entered a trade was actually this guy right here, if you want to be technical about it, where it goes down and it pops back up. And this candle even ends up rejecting to the downside. So you would have set your stop loss for slightly below it there, okay? And then you would have, I'm going to actually try to move this a little bit. This is hard to see right here. Just give me a second, guys. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, you would have entered a trade roughly right around here where it starts to reject to the downside, okay? Right there, you reject to the downside. You would have set your stop loss slightly lower around those particular ranges right there. Your loss could have been really big though, right? So you want to maybe just choose a very small percentage. I don't know, maybe even slightly below the 55 EMA. So now your loss is about 2%, very acceptable. And you would want to ride this guy until we get to the very top, right? We say to ourselves, how do we spot the top? Well, that is the RSI resistance, first of all. We keep saying to ourselves, is it actually going to get to a higher RSI than that? So the first one that we see is a false one, right? This one here ended up taking a big dump, but it rejected it right above the 55 EMA. No reason at all to close it. So this one's completely discarded, right? And we say to ourselves, all right, well, we're going to wait now for basically for it to see it level off right there. And when the histogram actually starts to downtick. So this one gets a higher high than the previous RSI, we're good. Don't ever close it when you're getting a higher high on RSI. The next one definitely gets a higher high on the RSI. But guys, what we're seeing is it's downticking, okay? It's starting to downtick. Take a look right here. And because it's starting to downtick on the histogram, that is the moment that you guys should be taking your profit. Right? We don't see any type of MACD crossovers, no MACD crossover. We see it here in hindsight, but because it's a lagging indicator, you cannot come to rely on it too much. And we also say to ourselves, while the histogram is actually ticking downwards, okay, we're losing steam in the market. Right? We're losing steam. This is what we call bearish divergence right there. So guys, honestly, I would have taken my profit on this guy right there. Okay. I didn't quite ride it to there. Not quite there. I think it was more so $3 ranges, not the 330 ranges. But this coin turned a lot of people into millionaires as well, guys. Imagine if you had known about how to trade like this. Imagine if you knew about holding coins this long, right? You guys could have turned yourself into a millionaire. This one here, guys, I took my profit around the $3 range, right? It was a little bit earlier, around $3 right there. But if you adopted this strategy, you would have wrote it to the next histogram down tick right there. Or actually, you would have wrote it to pretty much right there when this formed, right? Maybe the next day to be clear. This day right there is where you'd have taken your profit. So you'd have sold it at say 285, right? Or you could have caught it at the very top if you immediately notice the next day that the histogram ticked down. So you could have caught it around the 307 range as well. And this would have made you a 1,100%, 1,337% gain. Pretty cool, right? Another example with Ripple as well, okay? Notice right here in this entire area, okay? This area right there, that's where I actually caught Ripple as well. I was pretty happy about this one. I don't tweet about all of my trades because it's just too many, but I definitely catch a lot of trades out there, guys. So this guy here is looking pretty good, in my opinion. Right here, we're getting a sideways one. Take a look. It looks really good because we're getting sideways action. But what do you guys notice about the RSI? Okay, what do you guys notice about the RSI? What you'll notice about the RSI is that it's bullishly diverging, right? Sideways action, but bullishly diverging. You guys should have bought on the first one, maybe second one, right there. You could have bought it, maybe the third one. Up to you guys. I caught mine right about there. Okay, super tight stop loss, slightly below it there, around 3% loss. And I think I sold mine right around here actually. I just targeted the 55 EMA, right? Around there. Actually, no, I remember now. Okay. I was waiting for the histogram tick downwards on the daily, right? Super easy. Histogram tick on the daily and also the bearish divergence, right? We're getting lower highs on the histogram. We're anticipating the MACD crossover as well, right? And on the daily chart, what we're seeing is that we're getting a lower, despite similar price action, guys, very similar price action, right? This one and this one, almost sideways, but we're losing strength because the RSI is actually getting a series, excuse me there, let me just refresh it, a series of a lower high. And whenever we get a lower high, that's always time for you guys to take profit. That's what I did. So I targeted mine right around there, okay, right there. I like to use these vertical lines, histogram ticking, right? We got another peak right around there, and bam, this one here yielded about a 100% gain. Yeah, I don't like to tweet these ones because nobody wants to hear about a guy putting in 10K and then he makes another 10K out of it in a few days, you know? But that's kind of how it happened, guys. It was a super profitable trade right there. Yeah, so this one was quite awesome as well. And I think I'm going to end the lesson video right around here because it's about the 1 hour mark. And you guys also have tons and tons of examples already. And we're going to be going through even more of these examples. So guys, the most important thing to take away from this particular lesson videos are these, right? Or about RSI in particular, is that when you guys are looking at RSI, you always want to make sure that you are buying it, guys. Whenever you're getting a series of you see a price action, for example, it's getting lower, but the RSI is actually going upwards, right? We're seeing signs of bullish divergence across the board. So that is a really good place for you guys to enter a trade, right? And when you're selling it, if you're seeing a higher high for price action, but on the RSI, you draw that line and you're seeing it bearishly diverge with a lower high on the RSI, that's actually when you should be selling it. Now, when we go over even more example videos, especially in lesson number 17, you guys are going to see me make a lot of live trades and you're going to see me talk about that in very, very high detail. RSI is honestly one of the tools that has changed my life. I have gone through the Bitcoin charts, EOS, IOTA, XRP, and yeah, we can even do BCH if you guys want, right? Like honestly, it was really cool to see this, right? Here we're getting sideways price action, just for example, right there, but we're getting bullish divergence, right? We're getting bullish divergence where it's actually gaining steam right there. So if we compare this particular region right here, you guys can use this on any time frame, on any chart, and you'll get the same results, okay? You guys notice right here, we're seeing it, this was a lower low, right guys? Lower low or almost sideways when you think about it as well, okay? Almost sideways. So because it's almost sideways there, but we're getting, actually it's more so lower to be specific, right? But we're getting strength in the market on the daily, right? Because we're seeing it gain strength on the actual daily, that would have been the time for you guys to have entered a trade, right? And this is the first peak that we see, right? The first peak, and this is clearly the second peak with a massive doji right there. So would you have taken your profit on this peak right there? Yeah, you could have taken some of your profit, right? But if you decide to ride it even longer until perhaps it crosses over, and for the second peak to get better, or to actually take your profit, you'll see these bearish signs of divergence across the board right there, right? But realistically, a lot of people, including myself, I would have taken my profit right here because that's where I was reaching dangerously overbought regions, right? Very overbought regions right there. And right here, we're seeing signs of bearish divergence already. So this one here, I definitely wouldn't have caught it because this one would have been more than enough of a sign to sell with the histogram ticking downwards and RSI bearishly diverging. Despite it getting sideways price action right here, I definitely would have taken my profit knowing me. And then I would have entered right around here. I would have set my stop loss for about a 2% loss. Lately, I've been going about 3%, so I've been playing a lot riskier, and you guys would have caught it right around that range for a 138% gain. Notice how it's working on every single chart, and this is only on the daily, right? Let's say you're actually, I should go over it on a very small time frame as well for you guys, right? Let's go over it on a 30-minute chart, okay? Let's go over this on a 30-minute chart, like on Bitcoin, for example. On a 30-minute chart would be good because you guys don't only need dailies, right? You want to also buy it when there's a lot of strength in the market throughout the intraday as a day trader. So let's say I spy with my little eye, just looking at any. I'm noticing bullish signs of divergence right here already, right? Despite us getting a lower low or very similar price action on a daily, this right here would have caught my attention, okay? It would have caught my attention right there, and also this would have caught my attention as well. Right there. Very subtle things to take a note of. It wouldn't have been enough for me to enter my position quite yet, but as soon as it actually broke out above the 55 EMA, I would have also made note of all these particular regions right around here, okay? Right around there. This is on a 30-minute chart, right? The moment that it broke above here, that is where I would have entered a position. I would have entered a position right there because I'm seeing one side of bullish divergence, two signs of bullish divergence right there, and then on the third sign of a breakout above the previous resistance, which now becomes a support, I'll set my stop loss pretty much, say, right around here on the lower end right there, and I would have targeted as soon as I see a bullish sign of divergence, or sorry, bearish sign of divergence, which would have been right there, right? This one had the histogram tick was all right, but it didn't hit my stop loss, so I've got no reason to close it. And if it was up there already, I would have actually moved my stop loss to slightly lower than it right there, just to almost break even. But we start to see the actual bullish sign, or sorry, the bearish sign of divergence when it gets to right around there. So that's where you would have actually taken your profit right around here for an easy 3% gain. So this is why I do very, very often, guys. Okay. Super often. I'll introduce to you guys my strategy of what I actually do. Whoops, complete accident there. I'll introduce to you guys my strategy where I'm looking for signs of bullish divergence on a 5-minute chart even, okay? Right here, I'm seeing a higher low on a 5-minute chart. That's right. This one is slightly higher than it, but if you guys notice right here, this is a lower low, okay? It is a lower low, but this one is a higher low. And because it is a higher low, you guys need to make sure that you really, really understand the fact that that is where you should have entered a trade for Bitcoin right there, okay? On a 5-minute chart even, right? And you could have targeted around the 200 EMA as well. So it doesn't matter, guys, what chart you get to, okay? Doesn't matter what chart you guys decide to play, you will always be profitable using this strategy when we find confluent reasons. So I'm going to wrap up this lesson video. This will be lesson number 14. I hope you guys have had a thoroughly fun time, and I hope that you guys have taken so much away from these lesson videos because I'm putting in tons of effort, and I want you guys to be successful because you are genuinely my students. And because you're my students, I need to see you guys succeed. I need to make sure that I see you guys working hard. I need to make sure that you guys are asking questions. There are no dumb questions. Okay, guys? Yes, on Twitter, reply to smart ass comments, right, in a very negative way. But guys, I will not make you feel bad in any way for asking a question. There are no such things as dumb questions. I want you guys to approach me with any question that you have, and we're going to make sure we expand your knowledge because there's nothing more than I want from my students than for you guys to actually succeed. So this wraps up lesson number 14, which talked about relative strength index. Once again, you get a series of a lower low, but you get a series of a higher high on the actual price action. And because it's in a higher high for the price action, a lower low on the price action, but a higher low on the actual RSI, that indicates that you're gaining strength and momentum in the market. So that was the main thing I want to talk about. We need to talk about signs of bearish divergence and bullish divergence as well. So I'll see you guys for lesson number 15 for Fibonacci retracement and obtaining targets. And I'll see you also for lesson number 17, Fibonacci extension and obtaining targets as well. If you guys have had a thoroughly fun time in these lessons so far, please make sure that you're giving me a positive review. I'd really certainly appreciate that. So have yourselves a great day. Thank you very much for joining me in this class, and I will see you for lesson number 15. See you soon. Bye now.